Hi, my name is Ella Holman,
And I'm Cami Bunnell.
and today we're talking about the controversial topic of whether parents should sleep train their child or not. The definition of sleep training is the process of training an infant to feel comfortable sleeping through several hours of the night on their own. It can also be known as parents responding to their infant's cry at increasing time intervals to allow independent settling. In short, sleep training is teaching a child to put themselves to sleep without the help of a parent. This can be done through a caregiver putting their baby to bed while they're in a drowsy state and still awake. And if the baby cries, the caregiver waits about 2 to 5 minutes before interacting and reassuring them. They do not pick up the infant when they reassure them. And then the caregiver returns again after about 2 to 5 minutes and eventually increases the time between interaction and responses until the child successfully puts themselves to sleep. It can be challenging for a parent to watch their child cry themselves to sleep, but there are signs that the child learns over the weeks to better put themselves to sleep. Sleep training can be done in various forms. One of the most commonly known methods is the cry out method, where the child cries themselves to sleep. The cold turkey or solitary sleep method is putting the baby in a predetermined sleeping space and leaving them there no matter the amount of degree of protest. The pick up put down method involves a parent repeatedly reassuring their child after a given amount of time for the night.
We wanted to talk about the cons of sleep training in infants and children. So one of the first cons that we saw is it's pretty harsh and inhumane to children. So it says that sleep training damages the child's trust in its parents and generally interferes with adequate care of the child. The second one that we saw is chronic stress is bad for the brain. This is especially true for children under the age of 5, whose brains are malleable and therefore highly vulnerable to stress, because when they cry, the hormone is released into their brain. That is a stress hormone. And in the second bullet point, we can see that regardless if they cry or not, the increased level of this hormone in their brain may affect the development of the child overall. And this is called toxic stress. And then the third con that we have is that it negatively affects breastfeeding. So it affects the mother. And women have found that when they're told to ignore their child's cries for sleep training, they find themselves ignoring them in other scenarios. So they believe that it's overriding the mother's hardware response, their innate desire to help their child. It also affects the actual breast milk, because spacing out the breastfeedings impacts the milk supply, which creates, number one, less milk, weight loss of both mother and child, and then you have to supplicate the milk, which is oftentimes formula, which doesn't have the same benefits that breast milk does for mothers. And last, the breastfeeding is one of the number one ways that a child and a mother can have this intimate connection. And if that's not there, then they can't have that connection. But the most frequently mentioned con of sleep training is the attachment theory, specifically the Strange Situation by Mary Ainsworth. It's a study of attachment in children, especially during the first year of their life. So essentially what she did is she took children and put them into a room with their mother, and then the mother left and a stranger entered the room. And based off of the child's reaction from the stranger in the room, they were given these different types of attachment. So they're securely attached, which is they were distressed when their mother was gone, but once the mother came back, they greeted them with smiles and they were friendly and they connected back again. Insecurely attached or anxiously attached is when they're super stressed upon separation, crying and screaming and wouldn't explore the room. But once the mother came back, they gave them a little bit of affection, like, yeah, I'm glad you're back. But then was like, okay, no, let's not touch. And they separated themselves from them. And then avoidant attachment, which is the child was rather indifferent whether their mother was there or not, and they would explore and take interest in the room. So the mothers of these children all reacted to their children differently. The mothers of securely attached children, were more responsive to the feeding signals and the crying and were ready. Anxiously attached, they were inconsistent, unresponsive, or rejected them, and avoidant mothers just didn't even respond to the crying or discouraged them from crying in the first place. So this is pretty important because they're connecting that mothers who are not responsive create insecurely attached children or neglected children. And that can cause this statistic here at the top that it says around age 2, insecurely attached children tend to lack self-reliance and show little enthusiasm for problem solving. And at 3.5 to 5 years, according to their teachers, they are often problem children with poor peer relations and little resilience. And at 6, they tend to display hopelessness in response to imagined separations. So healthy mothers create healthy children, but if children are neglected, they are not, given that confidence that this quote says here at the bottom, that creates satisfying relationships. And the last little statistics that we have for that is, in Canada, they surveyed about 411 people and mothers and children of 6 to 12 months. And the results showed that the community was not having success with this. There was little to no success, with almost half reporting no reduction in infant night waking. So half and half. And then they also did a sample of around 600 people in the West, which is like Germany area, that showed that only 30% of them were sleep training their children at all. It's pretty common here in the United States, North America. This little quote under the 30% says that 1 in 5 parents sat with a child while he or she fell asleep. So it's definitely a culture thing where different cultures don't stay with their child and kind of ignore that part of their crying.
On the other hand, there are benefits to sleep training, and one of the bigger benefactors is that the parents receive a lot of help with sleep training. The parents are able to get more rest themselves, and that leads to them feeling more rejuvenated so that they can take better care of their child during the day. With parents having more time to themselves, their marriage can go stronger because they have more time to connect with their spouses. Mothers feel a great sense of relief because they feel like they're taking care of their baby the whole day. And so when they are given the night just to themselves, they can better settle down and feel successful and productive during the day. The babies do benefit from sleep training as well. They learn how to self-soothe and regulate their emotions, which can build onto their whole life. And as they grow up and as they're a toddler and they're experiencing a lot of new scary emotions, they can rely on the techniques they developed as a baby to calm themselves. Within the United States, there was a great percentage, 61%, of parenting books endorsed and recommended sleep training, while co-sleeping, which is like sleeping with the child, was only endorsed by 28%. So there was a greater percentage that recommended sleep training. Additionally, the parents experienced multiple benefits, about like 1 to 5%, 4% improvements in areas of depression, fatigue, sleep quality, doubts, feeding, and anger. So we came to the conclusion that sleep training is beneficial, though it is imperative that parents ensure they regularly comfort their children. Sleep training benefits the infants by providing them self-soothing skills, but it also benefits parents as well, as it increases overall quality of sleep for both parents and child. One aspect of this is that behavioral interventions increased sleep in infants and parents. Interventions entailed reducing parental disturbances during sleep onset and enabling the infant to fall asleep and maintain sleep on their own. Personally, as I babysat all throughout middle school and high school, I felt a lot less stressed when the kids could put themselves to sleep. I was able to give a better report back to the parents when they got home, and I could tell that the parents were able to leave home for the night feeling comforted and reassured that their children would be okay throughout the night.
And in my opinion, I personally believe that sleep training is the most effective form of teaching positive sleeping habits to children. Some of the most influential aspects of this during this research that I've seen is the second bullet point that talks about the difference in percentage from when they first tested these mothers in the sleep training, that 2% reported no nighttime awakening at the baseline, but then it increased to 69% at the follow-up. 23% mothers say they experienced 5 or more nighttime awakenings, while at follow-up, this was reduced to 0. So I've just seen with my personal experience with my nephews, as well as data that we have here on this screen, that children really do benefit from sleep training.
Thank you.